Welcome to our very first cookery demonstration. The first thing I thought we'd start with today then is going to be a really simple biscuit recipe. So 1 time sugar, 2 times the same amount of weight for butter, and 3 times that amount of flour. Now what I've done for the flour, just to let you know, I haven't used just plain flour. I've put some semolina into this as well because shortbread's got that real sort of crunchy texture and we want to get that coming through. The butter's softened. And the sugar, I always make my own sugar at home. This is my sugar bowl, it's been with me for years, and you'll see some strands of vanilla in there. So I just put my sugar straight into the vanilla pods, and that smells beautifully of vanilla. It's really delicious. You can use rice flour instead of ordinary semolina, but I've used semolina because I really like that crunchy texture. So there's 3 ingredients, and I'm just going to pop those straight into the mixer here. The key thing with this to remember is not to overbeat it, which is why the butter needs to be soft, because if you overbeat flour, then it becomes too glutinous and the biscuits become chewy. So I've got here is 100 grams of caster sugar. Into that I'm going to add 200 grams of butter. Remember, these quantities can change as you need them to change, so if you're doing much larger volumes of these things, then in theory you could do 1 kilo of sugar, 2 kilos of butter, 3 kilos of flour. The mixture keeps really well, so if you're doing a lot of biscuits for hospitality, then you can use this mix on a much larger scale. So I'm just going to turn this on, this will be a bit noisy. So as you can see now, what we've done, this has become much softer and much lighter in colour as well. The reason it becomes lighter in colour is because we've beaten air into it. The more air you beat into it, the softer that mixture. Now for the final stage, I'm going to add the flour to this, and we're going to mix this in. I'm going to put it back on the beater. So, we had 100 grams of sugar, 200 grams of butter, which means we're going to have 300 grams of a flour mix. Now you can just use 300 grams of plain flour if you like, which is what we've got there, but I've taken out 50 grams of that, and to that I'm replacing it with 50 grams of semolina, or you can use rice flour if you want to do that. This will give it a much more textured flavour when you're eating it. I'm also going to add, because I just can't resist it, a couple more drops of vanilla essence, because I just really love that flavour in shortbread biscuits. I'll use my cap just to measure it because it stops me going a little bit too mad with that. We use vanilla extract rather than vanilla essence. Extract has the real product in it, it's not a chemically produced formula. So I'm just going to pop that on to beat up again for another minute and then we're done. You can see this slowly coming together now, and I'm not going to allow that to beat too much, okay, so I'm turning this right down to as low as it will go because I don't want all those glutens to come out from the flour. So just when I see it coming away from the sides of the bowl, then we'll stop. Whenever you use flour of any way, shape or form, you should always let the flour rest if you've added liquid to it. And the reason you do that is because flour releases a starch from its proteins, and if ever you've made pastry and then rolled it straight away, you'll notice that once you've rolled it, it stretches back into place again, and that's because you haven't allowed the starch to keep these. Make it a week in advance and then just have the mix ready in the fridge just to cut off as you need it. But today we're going to make 2 types of biscuits. We're going to make a jam biscuit and we're going to do a chocolate dip biscuit. Welcome back. Halfway through my cup of tea now. The biscuit mix has been in the fridge for about 20 minutes, so I'm hoping that's hardened up. We're going to just cook some off now, and we're going to look at 2 different ways of presenting those biscuits. So let's get those out of the fridge. So, I must stop saying so. Once you've made the actual mix itself, you can keep it just like this in the fridge in a tube shape. And what I'm going to do today, I've not done it before, but I'll cut them into nuggets, and I'm not even going to roll them out. I'm just going to leave them in that shape so I can see when we bake them off exactly what they look like. So, just to save you time, I'm going to cut them maybe that kind of thickness. So, just over a centimetre in thickness, 3/4 of an inch, if you still speak old money. So we're going to cut those. I'm just going to leave them exactly as they are to see how they melt down during the cooking process. I'm going to take 2 of these biscuits and I'm going to flatten them slightly just to see if it makes a difference. So it's a bit of an experiment we're having today. There we go. I've just flattened that biscuit ever so slightly. And we'll do the same with this final one here. Okay, and we're going to pop those into the oven for probably about 10 minutes. I've got mine set at about 150 degrees, and we'll give that 10 minutes and we'll see how that comes out. So back to our tea. We finished our cup of tea now, and it's 10 minutes later, so we're going to get those biscuits out of the oven now, and then we're going to prepare them ready for hospitality, or for our coffee bath. And then we put the final hole into the top of the biscuit here, so we've created then a series of 7 of those, which were the thicker ones with a hole in the top, and I'm going to put jam into those. And then we've got the ones that we flattened here, which we're going to dip into chocolate. Just to let you know as well that we could trim these edges, we could get the cutter and create a more formal edge on it, a more tidy, neat edge, but I quite like that rustic look. Okay. We've added a hole to the top of each of these biscuits, as you saw while they were still warm, and just to finish that off, I'm going to just put a little blob of jam into the centre of each of these. That's going to melt a little bit while the biscuits are still warm, and then that should form a really nice little crust over the top. These are a fantastic biscuit for hospitality and also for your coffee bars. You can do this in the slightly bigger version, as you can see there, where we made these flatter ones. Or you can just leave them like this. I think this is a really nice shape. It shows a real homemade effort to it, and it's not too formal a biscuit, so I think people will really enjoy these. Our final biscuits here, the slightly flatter ones, which came out, remember we pressed those, so those will come out quite nicely, but I'm going to make a chocolate biscuit from these. This is still, don't forget, a shortbread, so all I'm going to do for that is just dip them into bitter chocolate on one side there, just tap that loose and then lay that flat down for the biscuit. So then we just leave those to cool, and then we're going to put the kettle on and make another cup of tea. Right, we've put the biscuits in the fridge and we've left them for about 20 minutes, so hopefully they should be ready for us now. Check those. We check and see, yes, the chocolate's set, and our jam looks good. So, we'll just set those out for presentation now, and then we're ready to serve them. You can pause that. Okay, and we've got our final 2 biscuits there, which we coated with dark chocolate. So as you can see, we've got a selection of jam ones, a selection of chocolate ones, already presentable for our coffee bars, and all in the space of a cup of tea. Enjoy your biscuits.